Welcome back to this channel. Today we are reviewing The Karate Kid Part 2. Not much to say, but I think we can kind of get into it. Go check out my shorts channel. Recently, if you watched my Book of Boba Fett review, I cracked my iPad, so it's going to get fixed over the weekend. You can't really tell when you're filming, but if you turn down the brightness, then it is pretty noticeable. But not that bad, so I'm going to get it fixed, and then we'll go back to doing a movie. I'm going to film 4 videos. It's going to be this, Scream, which might have come out by now, Batman Begins, and then either Karate Kid Part 3, Scream 2, or The Dark Knight. One of the 3. Probably Karate Kid Part 3 or Scream 2. I think we can just get into it. Starting things off with what this movie's about. This movie's about Daniel and Miyagi heading to Japan because Miyagi's father was in a very sick state of life. And then, so we learn a bit about Miyagi's past with his wife and then Sato and other stuff. And then once they get to Japan, they're greeted by this guy named Chozen, who's Sato is Miyagi's best friend. And then Chozen is his uncle, which Sato trained. And then there's a whole rivalry going on with that between Miyagi and Sato and Chozen and Daniel. And then their relationship bonds. And then, yeah, that's sort of what happens throughout it. Man, that was probably my best movie explaining yet. Now we have the good, and overall, what this movie does really well, I think the locations overall are pretty great for the most part. I think the overall story works for me. And I think all of those notes are kind of nice to hit on, whether it's them going to Okinawa, whether it's Daniel and Kamiko forming a nice relationship, whether it's the relationship between Sato and Miyagi, and I think that's a nice direction to go. You learn the little drum technique. It doesn't play out good in the end, but I'll talk about that later. So overall, I actually do enjoy this movie, and I think it works with all of its locations, and I think going to the setting, and I think the overall story, it's a little bit dopier, cheesier than the first one is. I think the score is still pretty good. And overall, I think all of those combined together works, although there's some interesting elements. This is not one of those movies I feel like I have all that much to talk about, because it's one of those movies, it was alright. And I watched this one for the first time on a day I was sick, so yeah, I was eating Beast Burger throughout that. Interesting. And overall, yeah, so that's sort of what I really liked about the locations. I think some of the story arcs really work. And I think Daniel taking him to Japan in this new area, facing off against Chozen, this whole life or death situation works pretty well for me. I have my issues with Chozen and all of that, but I think we'll get into that in the mixed. So now you have the mix. I have a bunch of mixed elements. First one I'm going to come up with is Chozen. I think in the Cobra Kai Season 3 episodes, I think they hollow out his character a bit better. They make him a bit more sympathetic, where this one, very evil person, to be honest. And they don't really do enough explaining that, and they make him a little bit too evil, where he's just going after Daniel, and then there's this whole philosophical idea about honor somehow driven into this movie, even more so than the first Karate Kid, and even the Cobra Kai series. So I'm like, a bit forced, but okay. And overall, I think that those elements didn't quite work for me. I think Sato as a character, I like the arc between Miyagi and Sato. I don't think him as a character was all that good. I think it's a little weird that even when Daniel is not around, all the people in Okinawa are speaking English. So overall, I do quite enjoy all of these elements. I think the final fight with Chozen and Daniel kind of forced on there, because it feels like we have to have this final fight. But because the main plot line was dealing with the relationship between Miyagi and Sato, and then by the end, like, it's already solved, so, like, you just have to have this karate fight because it's a Karate Kid movie. And it doesn't quite work. The fight itself is actually decent, and all of those notes work for the most part, but it doesn't come anywhere near as good as the original's finale. Like, and then the drum technique, where it looks like Ralph Macchio is doing this. It looks weird. So I'm like, it looks like he's doing this. Yeah, okay, I'll stop. And overall, yeah, that's weird. It's no crane kick, that's for sure. Although he did try the crane kick in this fight. and it didn't work. So overall, I do quite enjoy this movie as a whole, but I don't know. I don't think Sato as a character worked out that well. I don't think Chosen. I think Chosen was much better in Cobra Kai, obviously, but I don't think he worked. And not even some of the other Japanese characters or Okinawan characters didn't quite work. But I think the dynamic between Miyagi and Daniel works again here. And there's not much that I really dislike about this movie, to be honest, because overall, it's one of those movies where I'm like, I don't really have much to talk about. Karate Kid Part 3 is the complete opposite. So, like, there's nothing I really disliked. But the main thing I'm gonna come to, it's on the cheesy side. The first one I get is not really what I would call a cheesy movie. I think the character arc dynamics work pretty perfectly for the most part. You can go check my review out. But this one, it doesn't quite work as well here. So I'm like, I still enjoy it, but like it's a little odd. So I don't really have anything I really dislike about this movie. Like nothing specific, but I don't think the sequel as a whole comes close to the original. For this movie's final score, I'll give it like I guess a 6.8 out of 10. It's not one of those movies I really had much thoughts on. Like I was very like, okay, it was a movie. It was almost 2 hours of my time spent. I don't like regret watching it. My watching experience wasn't that bad. That was an interesting day for movies because I watched that and then I watched Eternals. So yeah, not so good. And overall, I still enjoyed this movie, but I don't think it's on the level of the first movie. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Tell me what you think about this movie, and I'll see you guys next time. Adios.